Hi, on this episode of Pilot Wife Paralegal Life, I want to talk about how to have your marriage survive flight school and beyond. Keys to successfully navigating the flight path with your marriage, whether you are a female married to a male going through flight school or vice versa, a male married to a female through flight school. There are key things in order to keep your marriage successful during this very stressful time, because flight school is not like traditional school where it takes years to get through. It is very concentrated and takes months to a little over a year, maybe to get through flight school. And so it's a very stressful time compacted into a short amount of time. And so there's key things that you really need to do in order to be successful. Now, this is just from my perspective. You have to do what works for you, but this is what I have found to be successful through our marriage. One is communication. We have a shared calendar on our phones. Now, you can have a shared calendar any way you want, whether it's via your phones or via a wall calendar or one of those fancy electronic calendars that you can put in everything into, which I do want, but it's just out of the budget right now. But some calendar that lets you know the schedule, especially if you have children. You really have to prioritize the things that are important to you. So if it's that you have a specific event coming up that you want your spouse who's in flight school to attend, you have to let them know so that they can either get the time off of flight school or schedule around it, or just have that expectation up front that they're going to miss whatever event you have going on. With my husband's flight school, they schedule a week ahead of time. So on Friday, the schedule for the following week comes out. So this week's schedule was determined last Friday. And if there was anything important this week, like parent teacher conferences that I would want to ensure that he's at, I have to tell him prior to Friday so he can tell the scheduler that these are not going to work for him. Now, there's some things we can't work around. He has a DPE check ride coming up. We can't work around that. We have to go by the DPE scheduler's schedule. So if he misses whatever event, he misses whatever event. But that expectation is upfront because we have that shared calendar to know when something is going on. I'm a paralegal. If I have to attend jury trial and I have to be gone to attend jury trial, I did one in another city earlier this year. I put that on the calendar so that he knows that I am unavailable during that time and that he has to figure out what to do with the kids for that time because I was going to be unavailable. But that expectation was there and that knowledge was there, because you can't get mad at someone who didn't know that something was happening and they didn't schedule around it. And it can be very hard to change a flight schedule because of the fact that other students are using those planes, that instructor is instructing other students. And so you have to go by their schedule as much as possible. And also, they try to adhere to your schedule depending on the school. Just the reminders about events, you have to communicate about that information. You have to let that know that that is upcoming, because the event might not be in the forefront of their mind like it is in your mind, because they've got 1,000 other things going on with studying and flights and testing and everything else that's coming up. Know that you might go to some events alone. You can't always dictate their schedule and their life. You have to understand that sometimes you're just going to have to go it alone, and that you have to embrace that ability to do things on your own, which is something that I struggle with. I have very much been the parent who sat at home instead of going to an event because I didn't want to go alone and I didn't want to lug two kids around. Now that they're a little bit older, it's easier, but I very much put myself on the sidelines for many events because I just didn't want to go it alone. And I've gotten better. We just attended RTAG, the Rotary to Airline Group convention down in Dallas earlier this month. And while my husband was volunteering and doing that, I decided, you know what? We're not going to sit in the hotel room. We're going to go do stuff. So we went and did stuff in a total foreign city, all alone, me and the kids, and we had a blast. And I'm really glad that I was able to get out of my comfort zone and decide to push through that barrier for myself, because we didn't miss out based on my issues. Another tool in your tool belt, if you will, is flightaware.com. Flightaware.com. And it allows you to track the airplane as long as you have the tail number. And I've used this a couple of times with my husband, mostly on his solo cross country flights, because he's alone in a tiny little aircraft flying hours away. And so I just kind of do it every now and then just to kind of make sure that the aircraft is where it should be or where I would expect it to be, along his flight path, to make sure that nothing has happened. Another time that I used it was when my husband took our son on a birthday flight in a little Cessna, or Piper, I don't know which one, but either way, he took him up in a flight for that. And so, as the mama bear, I just wanted to ensure that everything was okay, and so I kind of tracked it. But it is a way to know if your husband or your spouse, is maybe going to fly based on weather, but you aren't entirely sure, and maybe that flight is scheduled during kid pickup and you haven't heard from them, so you check and see if the flight's in the air or not, so that you know whether you have to pick up the kids or they're going to pick up the kids. I've used it for that situation as well, and so it just allows me, when he can't talk to me, to be able to see if he's up in the air and I need to take care of the things at home. So it's something that is a useful tool, depending on your situation as well. Holidays. Holidays are just a day. You can celebrate any day, really, for Thanksgiving, Christmas, Valentine's, if that's your thing. It doesn't matter if you celebrate it on the day or if you celebrate it 3, 4, 5 days a week later. It matters that you're together, and so sometimes those holidays are going to have to be missed. Not necessarily during flight school, because instructors don't want to miss holidays either, but when they get up to the airlines in that first, second, third year, maybe even after that, they're not going to be able to control their schedule very much, and so they're going to be flying a lot of those holidays because no one else wants to, and you just have to roll with it and get used to it. So if you're coming from a 9 to 5 bank holidays off kind of situation, it's something for you to adjust to. If you're a military family or a law enforcement family or any other family that deals with working on holidays, medical professions or anything like that, then it's something you're already used to and you've probably adjusted already. But we've had to adjust multiple times during my husband's career as a police officer, during my career as a 911 call taker. We had to adjust when we were spending holidays together because we didn't always have the holiday off. And we adjusted with, opening Christmas presents at 5 o'clock in the morning our time, because that's what worked for him while he was deployed overseas, to be able to do it together. So it's you figure out how to do it and you work around it, and just know that the holiday is really how you spend it together, and it's not just a day. You have to have understanding for each other. They're stressed. You're stressed. The kids are stressed. The dogs are stressed. Everybody's stressed during flight school because it is a lot compacted into a short amount of time. And so you have to have grace for each other. You have to have patience for each other. You have to have love for each other, and you have to let some stuff go. You have to understand that they need time to study, and they need time to prepare, and they need time to decompress after a testing or whatever. And so you have to work around each other on that, and you really have to understand and give grace to each other during this time, because it's stressful and it's hard. And there are times that I know that my husband has been trying to study, and he's also trying to help with dinner or dishes or whatever, and I have to go, you know what, just go, just study, go do your thing. I've got this. You can do it, another day or whatever. Because I know that he will sacrifice the time of studying because he wants to help out with the family. But you have to push them to go do what they need to in order to succeed at flight school, because it is hard and it needs to be a focus for them. You really have to have that grace and love for each other, because if you don't, things could fall apart, and you certainly don't want that. And if flight school is hard, an airline career is going to be hard as well. You really have to give that understanding to each other, and understand that they may have to take 80% and only give back 20% during this time. But that's how marriage is. It ebbs and flows. It's not always a 50-50 partnership. One may need more than the other at any given time. So just understand that it's their time right now, and it might be your time later, or it was already your time and now it's their time. So just work with each other on that. Patience, patience, patience. You have to have patience for each other. You have to have that for each other, because if you don't, it's going to be even harder. I know that I have struggled with the commitment that my husband has to do, and that, you know, when his flight schedule gets rearranged or this or that, and I have to pick up slack where I wasn't anticipating picking up slack, it's hard, and I can feel a little bit of anger and resentment, but I have to take a step back and understand that he's not necessarily in control of his life. He's not choosing to do this necessarily. He is doing the best he can in the situation that he has. And so I just have to understand that he's doing what he can, and I need to do what I can. And so we have to have that patience, because otherwise it would suck. Quite frankly, it would suck. We have to have that for each other, because we can't afford not to. Something that another pilot wife has taught me, and she was at RTAG. She was a spouse speaker at RTAG, the Rotary to Airline Group convention that was earlier this month. Angelina Griffin, go check out her blog, thepilotwifelife.com. She's got an excellent blog. She's got a lot of resources on there, a lot of stories and anecdotes and everything else that she's gone through. And what she taught me was fly. First, love yourself. And that really resonates, because what it means is, don't put yourself on hold because they're in school. Don't put yourself on hold because they're gone. Don't put yourself on hold because they can't be there for certain things, or for dinner every night, or anything else. Make the good steak dinner, or the good pasta dinner, or whatever it is that you really love, that you reserve for the special times when you're together. Make it just because you feel like having steak or shrimp scampi or tortellini bake, or I don't know, whatever special dish it is that, you know, you really want to enjoy. Go do the things without them. Go for hikes, go to the beach, go to the movies, go do whatever it is without them, because they're not going to put themselves on hold for you. Maybe they are, but they don't want you to put yourself on hold either. Because if you put yourself on hold, and there's an airline pilot at this point, and you've put yourself on hold, and you've told the kids, oh, we'll do these things when your other parent comes home, then they come home from a week-long trip or whatever, and they don't want to go do things. They've been on the road, they've been exhausted, and now they just want to sit at home and spend time with you as a family, and you want to go do things. So now you've created some resentment there, because you want to go do the things and they don't want to go do those things. And then your kids end up suffering, because either you drag them kicking and screaming to it, or you end up giving up and you stay home. So go do the things. Go have your day at the beach, or go to the pumpkin patch, or go for the hike. Because when they come home and they're exhausted and they just want to spend time at home, well, then you're ready to spend time at home too, because you've already gone and done the things. So now you can sit at home, versus if you just sat at home the entire time that they're gone, and they come home and you're like, okay, let's go do stuff. And they're like, I don't want to. Then you're going to be mad because they don't want to go do stuff and you waited for them. So go do the things. If they come home and they want to go do things, find more things to do together, or Go for a different hike, go to a different part of the beach, go to a different pumpkin patch, go do something else together as a family because they're ready and willing to, but don't let yourself be held back because they're gone, because that resentment builds. One of the stories that the pilot wife talks about is that she resented him because he was on the road and he was eating out all the time, and he was staying in these hotels, and he didn't have to deal with the kids and the stress and everything at home. And he resented because he wanted to be home with the kids, and he wanted to be in that stress, and he wanted to be in that life, and he was missing all of it. And so you have to look at the other side. You have to look at the other side of the story, because what you're feeling might not be what they're feeling, and vice versa. So you have to understand that they feel they're missing out and you feel you're missing out. So if you go do the things and you go have the activities and you go do the fun things, you're not missing out, and they see that you are still living a fulfilled life and not putting yourself on pause. And the kids are seeing that you're living a full life and not putting yourself on pause. And that can lead to a better, happier marriage. Even though it may not seem like it in the moment, it can lead to a better, happier marriage. So these are just some tips and tricks that I have found through being a law enforcement wife, a military wife, now the wife of a private pilot getting his ratings for commercial airline, that we have found help with us. Maybe they help you, maybe they don't. Find what works for you. But if you do want more information like this and more tips and tricks for navigating this crazy life that we have, please like and subscribe so that you can catch my next episodes. Till next time.